Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming for our resident librarian candidate, Jose Gallegos.
Hello.
He's coming to us from Illinois. I neglected to bring the evaluation sheets, and in the interest of time, I will just email that out across the listserv first thing in the morning. So without further ado, here is Jose Gallegos.
Hello, everybody. So as Lori said, my name is Jose Gallegos. And today I'm going to be talking about the ACRL diversity standards, offering some ideas for supporting, enhancing, or contributing to them. So yeah, let's get started. Let me put this in slideshow mode. I should probably do that first. Okay. So yeah. The first thing I wanted to do was just start with defining diversity. So there's a lot of different definitions for diversity. The basic definition is that it's just some differences that distinguish one person from another. There's more inclusive definitions. Brunner states that diversity should move beyond issues of race, gender, and sexuality, and look at communication styles, generational differences, and work-life balances. Now, inclusive definitions like this, they're great, and it's awesome for everyone to be included in these definitions. But I think it's important to acknowledge that there is unequal treatment of some groups, and that there are limited opportunities for certain groups as well. So I really think my first contribution that I want to make is to Standard 1, cultural awareness of self and of others. So I think to truly be culturally aware, you have to acknowledge that certain groups are discriminated against more than others, certain groups are privileged more than others, and I think that people need to take this into account to be culturally competent, and just generally in the larger conversation about diversity. The next thing I wanted to do is look at the demographics of the library field as it stands. So this is from the School Library Journal. It's 2012 graduates, MLS graduates, compared to the U.S. population. So as you can see, African American and Latino populations, they aren't really graduating with an MLS. And the question is why? Why is the field not as diverse as it should be or as it could be? I think it's a combination. I mean, there's so many reasons why this is, but I narrowed down to a couple of reasons. Major reasons that I think the reasons why the library field is not diverse. And I think it's a combination of the high cost of college and the lack of social mobility in this country. So Pew Research shows that African American and Latino families have the lowest median income, while whites and Asians have the highest. And this, coupled with sociological studies done by Carl Alexander, in which he tracked children from low-income families in Baltimore. These were poverty-stricken families. Only 4% of children that he tracked had a college degree at the age of 28, compared to 45% of children from higher income backgrounds. So that's almost, 1 in 20 children from low-income families get a college degree, compared to like 1 in 2 from higher income backgrounds. So that's huge. So really what I'm getting at here is that there's like this vicious cycle going on where Black and Latino families are more or have lower median incomes, so they don't have as good paying jobs. Children from these families are born into low income, meaning that they are less likely to get a degree, and this trend sort of continues. So I think to break this cycle, colleges need to become more affordable, and I think when that happens, we're going to see a more diverse library field. Okay, so one of the services that librarians can provide to make the cost of college more bearable for students is open access textbooks and open educational resources. OAT and OER ties to ACRL Diversity Standard 4 because it is a service that is inclusive to the needs of all persons in the community the library serves. So I support OAT and OER because it is an alternative to expensive textbooks. And it's especially useful for low-income students, which oftentimes happen to be students of color. So yeah, I remember I skipped out on buying lots of textbooks because of just how expensive they are. So I can relate to why this service is so important. I think academic librarians are natural supporters of open access textbooks and open educational resources, and they often advocate for them and promote these materials. And librarians can also help with licensing issues, copyright, and evaluating sources for these resources. And it's also kind of similar to the journal crisis in academic libraries, where subscription costs for journals are so high that there's been sort of a movement to open access journals. And it's similar to open access textbooks. Textbook costs are so high that it's convenient to move to open access textbooks. So in that regard, I can see how academic librarians kind of are supporters of OAT and OER. But yeah, I wanted to elaborate a little more on how it's presented on the library website. So I thought that was, it's presented, or WVU does a good job of making this resource known. So it's essentially 2 clicks away. If you're on the library website, you just click About Us, and then you can see all the library initiatives. The text is kind of hard to read there. My apologies. But yeah, you click on About Us, then you click on Open Textbooks, I believe is what it is. Let's see here. And all the initiatives are there in one easy place to see. And I think that online visibility goes a long way. So when you have that 2 clicks away, it's easier for faculty and students to get to, where the Yale University Library website, you go on there and you have to click on 4 different links before you find anything on open access textbooks. So you have to click a drop-down menu for teaching, click on faculty resources, click on instructional tools, and then eventually get to open educational resources. And I found that trend kind of for many academic library websites that I was looking at. Where I got my bachelor's, they didn't even have an OER site, or OER page, I should say. So this means that students and faculty are not as exposed to this valuable resource. So yeah, like I said, I appreciate what WVU has done with that. And it also gives initiatives to faculty $200 stipend for participation of written reviews of textbooks. So again, I just want to reinstate my support for OAT and OER. Again, because it's a service that's inclusive to the needs of all persons in the community the library serves. I think as academic librarians, we need to continue to find ways to make college more affordable, or just help students find ways to pay for college. Whether that's partnering with financial aid or student support services to create workshops, budgeting workshops, financial aid workshops, scholarship workshops, etc. So I want to talk about another project that I found that could enhance or contribute to Standard 4, and that was the race card project. So the race card project was something that the University of Akron, Ohio did, in which participants were prompted to write on index cards their thoughts about race in 6 words and attach them on a large display board in the middle of the lobby in the main campus. So you can see some examples of what some students wrote there. My races don't define my life. Race is just a 4-letter word. Those are just some examples right there. And at first glance, it might be difficult to see like what a simple project like this has to offer, but once I read the results from the paper, I really liked the idea. So really what it is, it's a meaningful and relatively low-maintenance way to build goodwill and cultivate relationships with campus while promoting diversity, inclusiveness, and related programming. So now I want to talk about the results of this project, because I found them really interesting. So the university examined each race card for tone, trends, card color, and number of words. So words that had a positive tone, some examples of that were love, togetherness, and celebration. And some words that had a negative tone were hate, privilege, abuse, and exclusion. And then what I really like what they did is they created a visualization using word cloud, which is displayed right here. And you can see the larger words are words that were used the most. So I thought that was really neat. Another interesting note about this is that submissions were not censored. But what they were finding was that a lot of authors were saying that their cards were missing, and there was a lot of self-policing going on of offensive cards. So what we can learn from this behavior is that participants were feeling empowered to control what is okay in the community to discuss. So ultimately, an outreach program like this increases library visibility and shows that it's a safe place to have these discussions. And when you do something like this, you learn about race relations at your university. You give underrepresented groups a voice. And it really contributes to multiple different ACRL diversity standards, cultural awareness of self and others. Just by writing your own race card, you might reflect and learn a little bit about yourself. And while reading other ones, you'll learn about different cultures and races. And yeah, again, it's a service that's inclusive to the needs of all persons in the community the library serves. Another program that I wanted to talk about was just a diversity expo. This was done by a resident librarian in North Carolina, Greensboro, University of North Carolina, Greensboro. Their resident librarian created this diversity expo in which student organizations, mostly multicultural student groups, were invited into the main library to share their initiatives, collaborate with other organizations, and recruit new members. Excuse me. So organizations gained membership interests and gave students, faculty, and library staff a chance to engage with diversity on campus. So the event was 4 hours long. The first 3 hours was an exhibition where the student organizations got a chance to mingle with other organizations and gain recruitment. And there was also some musical entertainment that went on towards the end. That was the first 3 hours. And the last hour was for a panel discussion in which student leaders and administration and faculty convened to talk about global issues affecting society. So important topics were covered like the shootings of unarmed black men by police officers, the emergence of ISIS and its contribution to the negative perception of Islam and Muslim Americans, and safe zones and how the library can be a safe zone to talk about these issues. So again, this contributes to ACRL Standard 4 because it's a service that's inclusive to all members of the library community. And what's really done by doing an event like this is it gives students, organizations the spotlight and builds relationships with the library. Gives the library an opportunity to publicize resources. You get stronger relationships with faculty, and it's just a way to expand the library's outreach efforts. Before I move on, I'm just going to take a drink of water. All right. Now I just wanted to talk a little bit about the residency program itself, because it's a way for it's a program that enhances the ACRL diversity standards. It enhances Standard 7, or contributes to Standard 7 workforce diversity, by hiring librarians from traditionally underrepresented groups. It also enhances and contributes to Standard 3 organizational and professional values, because it is a strong indicator that the university is actively working towards becoming more diverse, and it's exposing the staff to the benefits of a diverse workforce. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that this residency program in particular stuck out to me. I mentioned it a little bit in my interview because of the onboarding and mentoring. And just how on the site, when you click on the initiative for resident librarian, it looks more welcoming and inviting. When you go on another academic library's website, it's just like a job description posting. And when it's kind of described as an initiative, it's a little more appealing, in my opinion. So yeah, someone who's trying to become a resident librarian, I will say that being this sort of symbol for diversity for an academic library is it's a large task to have on someone's shoulders. And I think it's a little bit intimidating. But like I said, I truly believe that when a resident librarian program focuses on onboarding and mentoring, it just makes them feel more comfortable, I would say. So yeah, I think the importance of mentoring cannot be overestimated. A mentor can be instrumental in helping that person acclimate to the institutional culture, show them the preferred ways of communication, and just give tips on work and home life balances, things like that. So mentors is really important. According to Riley Reid, mentoring has been touted throughout the literature as an incredibly helpful tool to help all new faculty, but becomes an essential lifeline for faculty of color who may be facing isolation by making that transition into the university much smoother. I think having a strong mentoring program coupled with your resident librarian program is important for retention, just because this resident librarian might be the only person of color at the institution, might feel like Riley Reid said, a little bit isolated. So when you have mentors, strong leaders, it creates more of a welcoming environment. So yeah, I found that very important. Also, moving on from mentoring, I wanted to talk about the resident librarian program and the different rotations. And one of the rotations was administration. So that was one of the rotations that I did not see mentioned in other academic library programs rotations, was administration. I find that very important because it contributes to Standard 9 cross-cultural leadership. So so just having administration experience it's hard to get. So having this as a rotation, I think, is really important. But yeah, a lot of the times when businesses and institutions are trying to have a more diverse workforce, they only focus on recruitment a lot of times as the main driver for increasing diversity. But I think to truly be effective, institutions need to take a multifaceted approach to their diversity. So I think diversity should be part of the strategic plan, which it is here. It's mentioned in 3 of the goals. It's mentioned in the mission statement and in the vision statement and in one of the realizations. So that's part of the multifaceted approach, but also measurement and accountability. You have to be able to measure these programs and initiatives that you're doing to see if they're effective. There needs to be accountability for that too. Are we doing things to make our university more diverse? And then there's diversity training, which I will go over later in this presentation. And another area for a multifaceted approach is succession planning. So looking for talent for diverse leaders of the future. And one of the ways to do this is by including different staff classifications and backgrounds in the planning and decision-making process. So that's something I support, and it also contributes to Standard 9 cross-cultural leadership. So the benefit of having a diverse group in the decision-making process is that there's people from different backgrounds and experiences kind of talking to each other. It leads to new ideas. Because if you just have a group decision where there's a bunch of like-minded individuals, there's not much room for debate or thinking outside the box. So I think when you have people from different cultures, background, races talking together, all these different experiences make for I guess, a more potent decision-making and planning process. It's also a way for underrepresented groups to have their voice heard. And ultimately, when you do something like this, all members feel empowered to express and consider multitude of perspectives. It results in shared ownerships of decisions and actions. So then the last thing that I wanted to talk about today was diversity training. This contributes to ACRL Standard 10, Professional Education and Continuous Learning. So one of the ways academic libraries can do diversity training that I found online, one of the ways was through an exercise known as Demographics Guessing Game, in which staff compared the perceptions of campus, community, and library workforce demographics to historical and current statistics. And what this exercise does is it highlights diversity in the area or lack of diversity in library staff as compared to campus. And it's a way to generally discuss diversity. and the importance of diversity. But yeah, there's loads of different types of diversity training. There's different exercises where staff are asked to imagine themselves in someone else's shoes, or where they're just share differences and similarities of stories from their past. And staff often relish sharing aspects of themselves, and they leave feeling more aware of their culture and closer to their colleagues. So yeah, diversity training, different types of diversity training, I think contribute to Diversity Standard 1, ACRL Standard 1, Cross-Cultural Awareness of Self and Others, and Standard 2, Cross-Cultural Knowledge and Skills. So that's pretty much it. That's my presentation for offering ideas for supporting, enhancing, or contributing to ACRL diversity standards. If anyone has any questions, just let me know, and thanks for listening. That's it.
Questions for Jose?
Questions? Okay.
I saw on your letter that you wrote for us that you were involved in helping students with money matters.
Yeah.
How did you get involved in that, and what do you think the takeaway was for students?
Well, I got involved in that because I think there's really not a point in education where you really learn about money management. And I had started budgeting myself to be able to save money. Saving money is not something I had ever done until maybe 4 or 5 years ago, because it was so difficult. When you have a minimum wage job, really all your money goes to paying bills, and it's hard to find a way to be able to save. So I got interested in it once I really started to budget closely, and the different resources I used to budget, different websites that I used and apps like Mint. And I talked or spoke with the financial aid department, and there was I think it was the director of the financial aid department. She was really great, and she actually spoke in that event as well. So I hope that answers your question, how I went about doing it. Was there a second part to that question?
Well, I just wondered what kind of feedback did you get, or outcome?
Yeah, it was like 10 or 15 students that came in, and really they were just looking for tips on how to manage their money. And I think it turned out to be successful, in my opinion, and I think it was a great way to show students how they can save money and how they can pay for their college. So, yeah. You're welcome. Any other questions?
You're coming to us from a public library background. Can you elaborate on any experiences you've had from your employment relating to any of this kind of diversity, these kinds of programs that support diversity and inclusion?
One program that we did that was kind of a complete failure was we were trying to get high school students to vote. So we had done this panel, and I got my professor from my political science professor from St. Xavier University. I got her to come out to do this panel, and they also got, I think he was like the head of political science at St. Xavier University. He came out too, and then a high school teacher came out too to be part of this panel. But it turned out that no high school students showed up at all. So that doesn't really have too much to do with diversity, but kind of just outreach in general. So that's one of the things that I've done in terms of outreach. I've recently gone to 20s and 30s programming committee thing that was going on. That's not so much diversity, but kind of trying to reach out to underrepresented groups in libraries. I did apply for this position at Addison Public Library, which was social services coordinator. It's just something that I find a lot of fulfillment in doing, just helping underrepresented groups. It's something that I didn't really do too much in public libraries. Well, public libraries are a place where underrepresented groups go because they don't have the resources at their home. So just in my daily work, I helped underrepresented groups, but specific projects that I did, I didn't get too much experience doing that in public libraries, unfortunately. It was more in my academic work when I worked at St. Xavier doing that.
Well, I mean, I do want to clarify that the residency position, you're not like the diversity officer for the library
Yeah.
or anything like that. You would not be responsible for creating diversity programming. That would be something that would be throughout all.
Gotcha.
But it is the purpose of the program is to help underrepresented groups.
Right.
So,
Right.
is there anything else you want to share about any of your library experience?
Yeah, I hopped around a lot in public libraries, starting out in the computer center, just helping patrons with resumes and teaching them how to use software and things like that. And I've kind of moved around and moved my way up to doing a little bit of collection development for large print and fiction when I became a library associate. That's after I got my bachelor's. And then I was working multiple library jobs. And yeah, I got some experience with graphic design at another library and some experience, like I said, with collection development. And then I became a public services librarian where I got the chance to teach technology courses and do book discussions and manage homebound delivery. So that's really what my experience has been. Been working in public libraries since 2013. And yeah, I really love it, but I'd like the chance to learn about academic libraries and see what they're all about. So this seemed like the perfect opportunity for that.
Any other questions for Jose?
I'll ask another one. Because I come from more of a technical services background, and you said you wanted to explore metadata.
I do, yeah.
So all of metadata, digital subject headings, do you have any preference?
Well, what I had done, I took a class on it during my graduate degree, and it was metadata for digital resources. And so I think it would be something along those lines where, I don't know, creating metadata for, I don't know, for whatever kind of collections are going on in the library. But I'm not really entirely sure all that metadata encompasses. It's something that I want to learn about. I do find it interesting. Creating records I thought was fun, so as lame as that sounds. But yeah, I think it's something I definitely want to explore.
A lot of people don't want to explore technical stuff.
Yeah, it's something, yeah, I mean, I'm so used to being at the front lines, helping the public. So I'd like to see what it's like behind the scenes a little bit. You have a question?
Yeah, I was going to just sort of, given your background in public libraries, I'm wondering if you've thought about kind of opportunities here within an academic institution still for kind of community outreach beyond campus, whether it would be just sort of general public outreach or maybe trying to partner with the local public library. So I'd be interested in any thoughts you have in that area.
Oh yeah, I think that would be awesome. I always thought, because I've never worked in an academic library, I always thought that it's like a place where really just students go. And that's kind of always made me feel like, I don't know if I'd like that kind of environment. I like, the thing I love about libraries, or yeah, libraries in general, is that it's open to everybody, a place where everybody can come and learn. And I thought that, that with the academic libraries it might be a little different, but I don't think that's the case. So like you said, there's opportunities to reach out to public libraries, and I think that's awesome. It'd be something that I think I would really like to do. Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, we'll be around for a few more minutes if anyone wants to come up and just chat with Jose. And thank you, everyone, for coming. And have a
Yeah,
great
thanks.
afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.